Hi everyone, it's Laura here from makingcardsisfun.com and welcome to another card making video tutorial. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to do some masking and ink blending with the distressed oxide inks for a beautiful, smooth and airbrushed look. I'll also be using the adorable Follow Your Heart stamp set from Cynthia to create a very cute scene. So without further ado, let's get started on this card. I'm starting out with the Grassy border die from Lawn Fawn along with some Simon Says stamp masking paper. I'm temporarily adhering my die using some low-tack tape from Heavy Doodle, and as you can see, I used the grits on my craft mat to make sure I positioned my die completely straight. I'm running my die cut through my die cutting machine. I use the Spellbinder's Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And then I am just going to figure out where I'm going to stamp this adorable little image from the Follow Your Heart stamp set from Cynthia. I used a rectangle die from Winnie and Walter to figure out where to stamp the image, and I also positioned the Grassy border. I am stamping this little girl with some Memento Tuxedo black ink on Neenah Solar White cardstock. Then I'm going to stamp the image once more on some masking paper, and this time I'm using Ranger Archival Jet Black ink since it's water and smudge proof. I'll be using distressed oxide inks and some water splatters later on in the video to create my background, so that's why I decided to play it safe and use a waterproof ink. After stamping that image, it's time to cut it out with my EK Success Cutter Bee scissors, and then I'm coloring this image with Copic sketch markers. For the girl's face and legs and hands, I'm using E53, E51, and E50. I'm also going in with the R11 marker to add some blush to those cheeks, and then I am blending that out with the E50 just to make it a little bit more lighter because it was really bright and I was just looking for a really subtle flush on her cheeks. Then next for the hair, I'm using E27, E57, and E55. And these images from Cynthia are perfect to practice your Copic coloring. So I had a lot of fun coloring this little girl's hair because this is just something that I don't do very often. Whenever I color hair, I like to start out with my darkest color, then move on to the mid-tone and then end with the lightest color just to blend it all together. I also use this flicking motion with my brush to create a more realistic and highlight effect. For her dress, I decided to use some shades of red. I'm using R29, R24, and R22. For her little boots and her adorable umbrella, I'm using Y04, Y02, and Y000. I also used those shades of yellow for her little pockets, and then for the heart in her hair, I used the same shades of red that I used to color the dress. I actually had the same set for quite a while, but while I was purging through my stamp and die cut sets, I just rediscovered it. I only used it once until now, so when I saw it, I immediately knew that I had to use it again to create another card with. So I am going to adhere my little girl mask on the colored image, and then I'm going to position the grass mask on the cardstock so we can start to ink blend the grass. I'm starting out with Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to blend that gently in. These inks blend effortlessly. I've said it a bunch of times before, but these are my favorite inks to create a background with since they blend just so smoothly. Then I'm going in with Mowed Lawn, which is a shade of darker green. It's more of a like a true grass green, which I really like. And then I'm carefully bringing in more of that twisted citron just to create a nice gradient between the dark green and the light green. And then I'm just going back and forth with that darker shade and that lighter shade just to create a nice gradient and to make sure that you don't see any harsh edges or harsh lines or anything like that. So here comes the magic. Here's when it's time to peel off that mask, and then you're left with this beautiful grass. So I just let that grass dry for about 5 minutes before adhering the other mask on top of it, because when your Distress Oxide ink is recently applied and it's still a little bit wet, your mask will actually slide off when you come in with your little blending tool. So for the sky, I'm using Faded Jeans and Peacock Feathers, and I'll also be using Tumbled Glass as my lightest color. I'm constantly switching between the 3 shades of blue to create a nice gradient. And you just have to go on and on and on until you're satisfied with your results. However, with these Distress Oxide inks, it's really easy and really fast. I didn't spend a lot of time on ink blending. When I would have used the regular Distress inks, I would have spent much more time on it. So after finishing that blending, I sprayed some water in my hand, and then I'm carefully flicking the drops of water on my cardstock. I wanted to make sure that I didn't add any water flicks to my mask, because this masking paper is really thin, and when you will spill some water on it, it will actually leave a sticky residue on your colored image, and I really wanted to avoid that. So I just kind of picked up those water puddles with a Kleenex, and then I'm peeling off all the stencils, the masks I mean, and I had so much fun doing this because then you will see your end results, and it's just such a fun thing to do. Next, I'm using a rectangle die cut from the Katharine Cutaways die cut set from Winnie and Walter. This is a nice rectangle die with pierced edges, which just adds a nice little effect. I'm using some heavy doodle low-tack tape to temporarily hold down my die while I run it through my die cutting machine. So again, I'm using the Platinum 6 die cutting machine from Spellbinders. So I'm almost done with this card. All I have left to do is to stamp a sentiment. I'm using one of the greetings from the Follow Your Heart stamp set, and I'm stamping it with Archival Jet Black ink. I like to use this particular ink to stamp on top of Distress Oxide inks because it's a little bit thicker and the black stays black. When I use Memento Tuxedo black ink, it actually dries a little bit like a gray color, since the Distress Oxide ink leaves a little coat that makes it just harder to stamp on. Alright, so I just stamped on top of that black sentiment with VersaMark ink, and then I sprinkled on some clear embossing powder from Wow, and then I'm heat setting it with my heat tool. And I also just showed you how dirty my VersaMark ink pad was, but even though it's like completely stained, it still stamps well. Now that I stamped and heat embossed my sentiment, it's time to piece everything together and to finish off this card. I'm adhering my little scene on a piece of fun foam. However, you could also use regular foam squares or foam tape. I used my ADG from Scotch to adhere the piece of fun foam to my rectangle, but I am using the Tonic Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to adhere the finished piece to my card, since that will give me some time to kind of wiggle around my cardstock until it's positioned completely straight on the note cards. Just to add some extra shimmer and shine, I'm using a Spectrum Noir clear overlay sparkle pen, and I'm also applying a coat of Tonic Nuvo Crystal Glaze for some extra dimension and gloss. Finally, I am applying some Tonic Nuvo drops. I am using the Gray Mist Jewel drops, which dried translucent, and I'm also using the White Blizzard glitter drops. So there you go, that finishes up this card in this video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for updates, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.